it's the human condition, I think, to root for the underdog, and to hate on the man. Right? Anybody that's number one. I use this example all the time. Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time. The data show it. Everybody hates him. Everybody loves to hate him because they all wanted to take him out. They wanted to be number one. That's just the dynamics here, right?
Welcome to the Value Factory Podcast, brought to you by One Accord. We're all about helping businesses thrive and grow through leadership, strategy, and meaningful impact. Now, whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out, our goal is to provide insights and inspiration to help you navigate your journey. Thanks for tuning in.
Well, welcome, friends, listeners. We've got an interesting episode of the Value Factory today. I'm joined by a new friend, Chris French, and Chris is actually going to interview me, but we're going to have conversation that goes all over the place, I'm just sure. But if I introduce Chris right now, just, to the world, or I let Chris introduce himself, and then we'll give some kind of background as to what the content of our conversation is going to be. We're going to dive into it. Chris, thanks for being here. This could be fun. Tell us, I don't know, not about yourself just yet, but about this project that you've been working on, and then go into some of your background.
Yeah. So earlier this year, I decided to start a process where I interview 50 plus different executives from different industries and just ask questions in a standardized format, just so I can do some learning, because as a prior entrepreneur, I learned that I really don't know enough yet. So I wanted to take a step back and just ask people that have had success and that have done it in their lives, because they have wisdom to share, and I just want to be a sponge.
Awesome. So you've got how many questions?
4 standardized questions, and then
questions.
I add on 2
Sure.
extras typically. But
and you've interviewed 50 people so far?
48.
48.
And I'm doing 58 before I'm hosting an event on the 17th of July.
Okay.
For where I'm going to do a presentation for everything.
Of everything that you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
What makes up the 58? Who are these people that you're interviewing?
Mostly out of Seattle, but different executives from different companies. So it's a big range. Everything from Expedia, former CEO, to just smaller companies that are like family businesses, and just trying to get a range, and even different people that have lived and worked long careers and worked their way up throughout companies. And I'm just trying to get a lot of different perspectives, just so I can get more input and really just take everything that I can from it.
Awesome. So shortly, you're going to ask me these 4 questions. But before we go there, tell us about you.
Yeah. So over the past couple of years, I've been running a small startup. We manufacture windows and glass in China, import it to America for a number of different use cases.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we had some success on that, although we had to shut down earlier this year due to tariffs, because the uncertainty in the market kind of made it so if we were to take a project on, we weren't sure that we could honor it and keep the commitment to the customer, because we had such a long sales cycle. So we kind of had to do a little pivot, and that's when I started doing this process.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it.
All right,
let's go.
So the first question that I have for you is, knowing what you know now, what career, business, or investing advice would you give your 24-year-old self, and why?
Career, business, or investing advice. When I was 24, I was managing a bank branch for Bank of America. And I had been identified, let's say, as a high potential employee. And there were certain things that went along with that. But I was really immature. And so high potential, but not ready yet for the next thing. I would also, this is the current me looking back at 24. So I was immature, arrogant, cocky, kind of lacking humility, right? So to give myself career advice, it would be to be more self-aware and to improve what I would classify or frame as executive presence. So I was invited into rooms where at 24, most of the people in the room were 10, but likely 20 and 30 years older than me. And I showed up like a kid. I acted like a kid. They saw more in me, but I didn't know how to tap into that. So executive presence, maturity. You said career, investing. What was the third?
Business.
Yeah. At 24, I was working in the bank, and so I wasn't necessarily thinking of business. If I had started my entrepreneurial journey then, I don't know that I would have succeeded. Because again, I was immature. I wasn't ready. I had an inkling that being an entrepreneur, being in business for myself would be something in my future. Maybe even then I knew I wasn't ready. So if I'm talking to my 24-year-old self and saying, when you're ready, you're going to really need to understand sales. You're going to be an expert, or you need to be an expert at marketing. Those are I'd say the greatest gaps as I show up now, call it 20 years later, marketing and sales. And here's the difference. Working in a large company, Bank of America, very large company, even the smallest bank that I worked for, we had a lot of resource. But we were selling commoditized products. We were selling other people's money. And I was good at selling bank products, but that doesn't mean that I'm good at marketing or selling cars, professional services, trade services, construction, furniture, SaaS products, right? So being good at one type of sales does not mean, right? And marketing, like really understanding marketing metrics, marketing data. So those are the two things that if I needed to fill a gap and I could talk to my 24-year-old self. Now investing, this is an area where I'd say by the grace of God, someone was put into my life, or I was in a position. When I turned 18, one of my colleagues, and I started working in a bank when I was 17. When I turned 18, one of my colleagues sat me down and said, "Happy birthday, sign this." And I was like, what is this? She said, "It's your IRA." And I was like, I'm 18 years old. What am I thinking about a retirement account for? She's like, "Shut up, kid. Just sign it." Right. I opened a retirement account at the age of 18 and started putting $25 every 2 weeks in that account. My roommate, good close friend of mine, I told him about it. So he did the same thing. And he was like, "Well, I'm going to do 35. So I was like, "Well, I'm going to do 40. I'm going to do 50. Right. So we had this little competition. So I started saving for retirement at the age of 18. And that got me interested in investments and understanding equities and bonds and long-term and compound interest and so on and so forth. So from an investment perspective, I think that by the age of 24, was actually way ahead of the game. And that's what afforded me the ability in my early 40s to retire from banking. A couple of years ago, I could have lived a very easy life without doing what I'm doing now, based on the decisions that I had made when I was, or that I was invited into when I was 18. So wrap all that up. The 24-year-old me was immature and needed to learn executive presence. And for the future, I really should have learned more about sales and marketing. Here again, humility would have helped me with that, because I would have accepted that I might know one thing, but I don't know everything. And, perhaps I could have saved more, but I did things right, and I lived a good life.
Do you mind expanding a little bit on what exactly you mean when you say executive presence?
Yeah. There's a politic, there's a demeanor, there's a mix of deference and assertiveness. So when I was invited into the boardroom of a bank, so here I'm a mid-20s mid-level manager in a bank, and I come into the boardroom with the board of directors of a bank. How do I show up from a physical appearance? How am I dressed? How do I carry myself? Eye contact, handshake, body posture. There are the physical elements of executive presence. And to be really clear, if you look at, and I would say a Jamie Dimon, right, CEO of Chase Bank, and I think a top executive in America, I think probably the best banker in the world and maybe of all time. Look at the way he carries himself in public, physically, the way he's dressed, his facial expressions. He has executive presence, and he's one of many, many examples. Just what happens to be a person that I look up to. And then there is kind of a layer under that, how I show up. It's how I communicate. How do I write emails? How do I respond to situations? A layer under that is how do I interact with peers and colleagues, let's say in the hallway, but not in the boardroom? Do I show up so I can put on a persona in the boardroom? I can, tighten up the tie, I can compose myself. But if I walk out of the boardroom and then I, turn into a foul-mouthed kid, which I was, then I've just kind of diminished everything that was in that room. If my email, my written communication is not crisp and clean and focused, and here's a real specific, if it is not free of emotion, right? So I would say that communicating emotionally is a sign of that immaturity, whereas focus on fact and evidence is a sign of that executive presence. I can give another example. If I write an email that's this long with a lot of words explaining my feelings and I'm emoting through that, or if I write an email that's this long and it's fact-based and it's just, it is what it is, those two things land differently. In communication, if I hear something I don't like, how do I respond to that? Do I respond with a level of surety and confidence, maturity, humility, deference, confidence? And I didn't have those things. So someone might tell me something that went against my viewpoint, and I can just think of an example where I'd get really defensive. Here's a perfect example. We were hosting a holiday party, and one of the employees in our office was under the age of 21, but this person was drinking wine at the holiday party. And my boss came to me and was like, Nick, they shouldn't be doing that. And I blew it off, and I was like, oh, that's fine. What are you worried about, right? I was embarrassed to be put in that situation. I was defensive. My response it was improper. It was immature. I didn't have kind of the wherewithal to think like, gosh, if he drives in a car and causes an accident after a company party, like I didn't think all the way down. So there's the executive mind, but the executive presence in that moment with humility and deference would have been, gosh, you know what? You're right. I'll go talk to him and we'll stop that. So those are some examples and some thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for elaborating on that.
You bet.
The next question that I have for you is, what technology or technologies do you believe to have the greatest potential to create positive and sustainable business improvements within the next 10 years, and why?
If I didn't say AI, the bots would fill up our comments here, right? So there's that. But I think AI, generally speaking, is too broad of a brush. So generative AI as an assist to the human. The generative AI tool that helps the attorney draft documents, that helps the marketer create content, that is the assist to the person. That to me is akin to the machinery that digs the ditch that at one point in time a human with a shovel would dig, but the human is now operating the machinery that can move a lot more dirt a lot faster. So now we have generative AI that can produce a lot more faster. I think that's it. So I think productivity from that perspective, and I couldn't give you 1x, 2x, 5x, 10x. I don't know. But that's really meaningful. Robotics is perhaps the most frightening to me. I grew up with the Terminator movie, and to see what does Tesla call their robot? Is it Optimus?
Yep.
I mean, does life mimic art, or does art mimic life, right? But you take the robot, the humanoid robot, and we're almost living into the cartoon of my youth, the Jetsons, where it would seem likely that households a decade from now, not every household, but households a decade from now will just be standard equipped with a humanoid robot that can do things that are generally unpleasant for us to do. The laundry, the dishes, the cleaning, whatever that work is, repair the roof, paint the, who knows where that's going to go. But that seems like it's an inevitable standard. And then those same robots coming into manufacturing and production, those robots coming into retail. I went into a bank branch this week, and my experience, unfortunately, was so poor that I left thinking I would have been better served doing everything that I just did there, either online or at an ATM. And I was shaking my head because the bank was actually remodeling the branch. They were investing money in the facility to house the people that unfortunately didn't add value to my experience. They diminished the value. So can I imagine a robotic bank teller that maybe does or doesn't look like a human? I mean, that just gets, it's a lot for the imagination to stretch. Self-driving cars and so forth. Like, now I start thinking about the movie WALL-E, and the people in the spaceship that just sit in the chairs and they drink the whatever. So even though when I think about artificial intelligence and robotics, I think about it in terms of these movies that I've seen that tell the story of kind of the dark side, the shadow side of that. The light side is that as humans, it seems inevitable that we'll be more creative and more productive for those who choose to be. And in business, the repetitive, the tasks and actions and behaviors that don't add value, they're going to have to be automated and handled by robots. And so then, it's a huge question of, well, how do we, as individuals, as humans, how do we add value, right? And this gets into existential questions about what's our purpose in life and, all of these things. But technology is that integration, the combination of artificial intelligence and robotics in the form of humanoid, that I think is the most revolutionary tech in the next 10 years, with one exception, and that is the technology that hasn't been invented yet, but will be inside the next 10 years, blow all of our minds.
Yeah. How do you think it's going to, this is kind of an expansion question on that, but how do you think it's going to change workplace processes in utilizing, for instance, agents to handle, you mentioned the tasks that don't directly add value would be automated. Do you think all that will be done with agents, or do you think that'll be a slow phase?
It's going to be a mix. I went to Billings, Montana last week and rented a car, and the guy that rented, gave me the keys to the car, wrote down my order in a press hard 2 copies notebook. So we are still in this day living in an environment where there's already tech available that's not being used. And this could blow the minds of, some, and for others, they shrug it off. But there are people that are walking around on Earth today that have never used ChatGPT. Okay. So what's the adoption rate? Take big business, take large corporate. I mean, they're already down the road, around the corner, and like halfway down the next block. Agents are interesting, software agents. So non like humanoid robots, but rather just chatbots and agents. I'm exploring the functionality of an agent inside of our company, but not terribly aggressively, because I just worry that it's an investment in something that will change or go another way. So workflows, I'm pretty hyper focused on One Accord right now. We don't have complex workflows. We don't make widgets. We're not processing a tremendous amount of data. We collect data and we analyze. So there's a couple of points along the way where I want to go grab as much data from the world as I can. And I want to leverage everything that we have internally that's proprietary. And that's where I need an agent today. At least that's what I've got line of sight on. For our clients that we are advising, now we have myriad applications. We work with manufacturers and distributors and professional services, the trades, tech, right? And so each industry has a nuanced set of opportunities that I think on some level, if only for their internal teams to be able to access internal data, agents and workflow automation are about as necessary as having a computer that is connected to the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a very blunt statement, saying it's as necessary as connected to having a computer that's connected to the web. Yeah. That's a very blunt statement. I completely agree as well.
Could anybody imagine operating a business today without a computer? could any of us imagine operating a business without a cell phone? So I believe that, that statement will hold true for the agent, the AI enabled agent that boosts the productivity of the people, and workflow automation is adjacent to that. It's not direct there. It's not applicable to every necessarily. I guess on the basic, but anyhow, I think 10 years from now, there's still going to be a guy in Billings, Montana that's going to rent cars on a piece of paper or something like that. You go to the local golf course and they got the cash register that says cha-ching and the door opens, and they actually use paper and metal to pay for things, right? But for most of the businesses in America and in the world, agents are just a cost of doing business. Yep.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're even less expensive than putting an actual person in there to handle a menial task.
Yeah, in the long run. I mean, I'm looking at it now. What is it? Here, my line these days is just sprinkle a little AI on it and it'll grow. But that's not how it works. If I want an effective agent to do what I want it to do, I have to train it and equip it with data and knowledge, which means I have to organize all of the data that I have. We've been in business for 25 years. We have files and folders, but we have troves of information, troves of forms and documents and Excel files, but they were not organized thinking ahead to today. They're not indexed. They're not coded. They're not, because 15 years ago, 8 years ago, 3 years ago, nobody was thinking, oh, I can train AI to go scan these data and retrieve, fetch and retrieve. So the amount of investment actually in time and dollars just to organize the data that I have is in the tens of thousands for sure. And that's to automate, our little business, which I absolutely want to do. So.
Okay. That's very insightful. The next question that I have for you is, given post-pandemic workforce trends that you observe, what specific characteristics or attributes of new recruits or current employees indicate strong future leadership potential?
If I say the thing about the kids that everybody says, it's the kids these days with the music and the clothes and the hair. Like, I don't know what got into them. This is generation after generation, right? And it would seem that generation after generation, it's like the kids these days, they don't know how to work. They're lazy, right? Maybe I'm getting old, but I want to say the same thing, right? Okay, so some truth here is 200 years ago, life was harder. It just took more effort to live. Today, a kid growing up in suburban North America, in Western Europe, generally, by and large, doesn't have it that hard. Now, some people do. I don't mean to discredit that, but generally speaking, so work ethic, like actual work ethic. You showed up to meet with me, you were 15 minutes early, and you said, I always show up early. Right? That is a remarkably rare behavior. Whereas I can say, well, in the good old days, everybody was on it. I don't know if that's true. So few, from my observation, kids do their homework because, well, they don't have to. My kids are teenagers. My youngest son, it's like, well, I can turn my C into an A. I just have to complete some assignments that I haven't. And I'm like, what are you talking? School's out in 4 days. You're just gonna do 10 assignments that you chose not to do, and then that's gonna give you an A? Like, how does that work? That just doesn't fit in the reality of my experience. And so I see an education system that has evolved to a place where it no longer equips the graduating, 18 years old graduating kids to be workforce ready, which then I think creates pressure, and there's societal pressure. Um, it's the human condition, I think, to root for the underdog, and to hate on the man. Right? Anybody that's number one. I use this example all the time. Tom Brady is the best quarterback of all time. The data show it. Everybody hates him. Everybody loves to hate him because they all wanted to take him out. They wanted to be number one. That's just the dynamics here, right? You look at Elon Musk as the richest man in the world. Forget the fact that he saved people on the space station, that he like revolutionized the electric vehicle, that he's wants to put people on Mars and continue forget all the good stuff that he's done, right? We live in a world today that that does not equip that has not equipped the incoming generation with a level of work ethic, maturity, executive presence, or even the knowledge thereof, the value of those things. And so here's my assessment, is that an even greater few will succeed, will lead, and so the very thing that perhaps the current paradigm, the current systems were attempting to achieve, which was greater equality, the very thing way that they set about to achieve that is actually going to create greater disparity, because those who could have comprised the middle class in Western civilization were taught, were imbued with, they were endowed from the world, from their parents, from the school system, with values of work hard, work ethic, study hard, grind, do the thing. And so that allowed people to go a level up. It created that space to go a level up. Now it's, I can't push the kids too hard. I can't lean in too much. It's okay if you don't do your homework. And then there's going to be a handful of people that are driven, are motivated, are grinding, and they're going, and there's going to be just greater separation. So on a philosophical level, that concerns me, that worries me. Let's go, 2 generations down the road, with greater disparity, a higher concentration of wealth amongst those who show up early, work hard, deliver a good product, take their lumps, don't complain, just head down, grind through. Fewer of those that make it through, more who don't have the work ethic, that are receiving more than they are contributing and giving. And so the characteristics, the traits, I think that your question was around leadership. It is, get up early, grind, go to the gym, read the book, do the work for someone for free, go do unpaid work. I can just imagine people scoffing at that, but I did it. You do it. To learn and to grow, take lumps, fail, do the hard thing, Do the hard thing. It's best, my thoughts here are best summarized by the wise words of someone else. Hard times create hard men, and hard men create easy times, and easy times create soft men, and soft men create hard times. And that's an observable cycle. We are coming out of easy times, and I think that collectively, by and large, we have gotten soft, and so I'm afraid that hard times might be coming.
I have to say that's a point that no one has said so far throughout my entire process, and I could not agree more with you. I really do think a lot will happen in the next 2 generations that might. I think after 2 generations, we might have another group of hard men, just using your term, and that's going to be good for the growth. But I think this is my personal opinion, but I think most of my generation, at least, is a little bit lazy, for lack of better words. And I know that got beat out of me pretty young.
Yeah.
But I definitely can see that, and I definitely agree with you on that.
I hope we're wrong. I pray to God that we're wrong. I look at the voice that is so loud in my head. The guy that lives rent free in my head is Alex Hormozy. You know who I'm talking about? What is he, 35? And he's super smart. He's a good dude. And he's disciplined, and he's focused, and he's so rare. But I don't know, 100 years ago, at least the fantasy that I have in my mind is that he's a little more normal than, today's kind of a standout. But I think even 100 years ago, you look at the most successful by, if we use wealth and enterprise creation as you look at the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Morgans and so forth of history, right? There are some commonalities, and they're standouts, and I think Hormozy's in that space. I can even just say the word is sad. I have a sadness. There's a sadness for the middle class that I think has been disserviced, walking along the pathway of good intent. Right? I don't know if you've heard that one, but the road to ruin is paved with good intent. And try to make life easy. Try to raise kids in a way that protects them and gives them only the best, but they don't then experience pain and suffering, which then is the birthplace of resilience. And resilience is what, and the funny thing is, as much as we try, we live in a fallen world, a broken world. Evil and sin exist all around us, so we can't actually protect them. So we create, now I'm getting really philosophical, we create all these kind of false expectations around there. And then like Mike Tyson said, you think you got a plan for life, but you get in the ring and you get punched in the face. And if you don't have that work ethic, that resilience, that drive, that humility, I'm gonna get back up, and I'm gonna learn from my mistakes, and I'm not gonna blame the world for punching me in the face. It's it's just a part of life. Those people, they are the leaders. They are the leaders that they go first, work hard, grind, give sacrificially, with humility. Yeah, those are the ones.
I like that answer. I have one more question about leadership. That is, what business leaders slash community leaders do you respect most and why?
Uh, well, I've mentioned Jamie Dimon. Um, Huge respect for that guy. Huge respect. And I've mentioned Alex Hormozy. Huge respect. Um, Elon Musk is atop the list for sure. The person who comes to mind as a community leader, maybe only a few thousand people know. He's a man named Phil McCallum. And Phil has been a leader in very large churches. So thousands of people might know him. But the work that he does today, as compared to some of those other names, could seemingly be very small. But he is really clear on what he is supposed to do in his life right now. And Phil leads trips of, leads trips, tours of Christians into Israel. And the way that he goes about responding to his call in this is so admirable. He's a very thoughtful, very convicted, very focused, loving, generous. I mean, he's all of the things, all of the words there. I think of my business partner, Jeff Rogers, whom you know well, from a community leadership standpoint. Jeff is the single most relational person that 10,000 people know, right? And the way that he goes about building community is I can say beautiful, I can say effective, right? So just for context, when I say 10,000, Jeff has, I think, 10,000 connections on LinkedIn. And with integrity, he will say that he's met every one of those people. And most of the people that he's met, he remembers. It's an amazing gift for community building. The community builders that come to mind operate on really a community level. So like small, right? It's 100 people, it's 1,000 people. They're not going to be known worldwide like Hormozy or Musk or Dimon.
Mm-hmm. But they have a very strong impact in that small community.
And even deeper impact into the individual lives of people in the community. So yeah, I think community is, by definition, small. America's 350 plus million people, right? I don't know what the number is. America is not a community. But the organization Kairos that meets in Bellevue, that has membership of maybe 200 on the outside and regular attendance of 100 at a monthly breakfast, that is community. So those are the community builders. Phil McCallum, that leads a trip of 25 Christian business leaders into Israel, that is community. And they, I think, are both necessary. The business leaders, the community leaders. Yeah.
I like your take on that.
Cool.
The next question that I have for you, we finished the standardized ones that I do, and I have two
bonus round.
Yeah. This next one is kind of just a learning experience one, but what would you say your biggest, either single biggest mistake or top two biggest mistakes are? And what lessons did you take away from that?
Only two? Oh man. I'd say that, listen, the best thing that I've ever done in my life is fail a lot. So there's that. And I am fatalistic in my thinking, in that fate, in that If I had done anything differently in my past, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I have been blessed to be the husband to Ariana, the father to Abigail, Christian, Eliana, and Finn, the son of Jim and Wanda, the business partner to Jeff, a friend of yours, like all of these blessings in my life. So it's actually a really challenging question for me to say, what should I have done differently in my life? You asked me questions earlier, the 24-year-old me. If I had played my cards differently as a young banker, I would have an entirely different career, and I'd have an entirely different life. Here's the greatest mistake. I neglected my physical health. And to change course. So 10-ish years ago, I would have stepped on a scale at 305 pounds. There were multiple layers of unhealthy living around that. When I was 16 years old, I was athletic. I played sports. I was overweight. I didn't eat well, but athletic. And so it would have been very easy for me to just fix my diet and not live a life of being a fat guy, which is what I did. And I mean, the effects of that emotionally and psychologically and all of those things, there's a lot to live through. Self-inflicted wounds, like, no pity deserved over here, but if I could choose a different life, I would have learned about a protein dominant diet and, gotten in the gym a little bit more. So here I am now in my mid 40s, and I have all of this knowledge after, years of kind of focusing on it, some lifestyle changes. And yet it's not the norm for me to wake up every day and just know this is the balanced diet. This is what's appropriate for me. It's like, it takes work because I lived 3/4 of my life one way, and now, only 25% of my life this way. So the lesson that I learned is a mantra that I've said over and over again, which is make time to prepare for a time when there is no time. Make time to prepare for the time when there is no time. And I live in that today. If the alarm goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning because I have a 7 o'clock meeting or whatever it is, if I had made time ahead of time to prepare for that time, here we are in my office. We got a kitchen downstairs. Have I put the right food in the refrigerator so that when I'm here and I'm rushing back and forth between meetings and I have no time, or do I just, grab one of the leftover cookies from the meeting that we had because I'm starving? Right? Do I have integrity around? Am I thoughtful about putting time in the calendar to go to the gym, for prayer and meditation? Those lessons, I blew off when I was younger. Like, it doesn't matter. Right? I'll wing it. I'll get by. And so I'm still teaching myself through practice, right, what it is to live a healthy life.
I very much so relate to that. Back when I was a little bit younger, I used to weigh right at around 280 pounds. And I'm a little bit shorter than you, so it's proportional.
Yeah.
And I didn't start making a change until probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I got really serious about it this year.
Yeah.
And so I've been mostly carnivore and just trying to push on that. And now I'm running a half marathon.
Good job. And you got a 10-year head start on me. So it's good.
Yeah. But
it's good.
It does. This makes me think of, in the Bible, it does say treat your body like a temple.
Mm-hmm.
And I really want to work towards doing that. And so I really thank you for saying that.
Yeah, man.
Because I really relate to that.
Cool.
The next question that I have for you is, who are 2 people that you know that you'd be willing to introduce me to, that you think I should sit down and do this with?
Have you talked with Phil Goodman yet?
No, I have not.
All right. So Phil is a friend. He's a colleague. He's a partner. We do business together. Phil runs an organization called Talent Realized. And Phil is super clear on his mission and who he is, what he's about. And he is an entrepreneur now after being an HR professional and working for, some tech startups and that. He's an excellent candidate for you. Do you know Stephen McDonald, Scottish real estate agent?
I do not think so.
Okay. Stephen is another. So Stephen and I met when we were on a trip. We were on a trip in Israel. We had not met, and this is the funniest story. We got buddied up. We were going to share a room for this, whatever it was, 2 weeks. And we walk into the first room in our hotel, and there's the one king size bed. Steven goes, "Oh, no. This ain't going to work." And he turned around, he walked out of the room. And he came back with one of the folks from the hotel, and they split the bed. It was 2 singles that were together. And anyhow, Steven is driven, dynamic, and very successful. He represents a lot of folks, in the Bellevue East Side market with, luxury homes and so forth. So, but he's also lived a lot of life, and a lot of story and a lot of lessons there that I think you glean from.
Okay. I would love to meet both of them.
I will introduce you to both of them.
That sounds incredible. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are my questions that at least I'm using for this. I'll pull this away now.
Cool. Well, this is fun. It's fun to talk about. A little different spin for our value factory. Usually I'm the one asking the questions or doing the interviews. So, thanks for being willing to do this in here in studio, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to do this.
All right.
I love it.
There we go.
Perfect.